Minecraft is a world known for having a lot of, things in it. There are forests, oceans, forest fires because God decided to put a lava pool right there, and of course, the player. In this case, a previous edition of me. However, what if I decided to torment her by taking away everything and leave just a floating island and some structures floating about? Well, that is how we end up in a Skyblock series, it seems. Loading into the world, we see a lot of the basic stuff that you would see in a normal Skyblock, though there is this little menu, I guess you'd call it over here, that lets you select a couple different options, but I'm just going with the basics. And by that I mean the special basics that this data pack has, because I think they're cool. If you're interested in the data packs being used, they should be linked in the description, but it's the Blazing Caves Advancements and also Skyblock Infinite. As I briefly mentioned, we're using the Skyblock Infinite data pack, which means other structures other than the main island will be generating out into the distance. The only other ones I can see currently is a ruined portal and a shipwreck, but more will become visible as Distant Horizons loads in more chunks, though it may make some of the structures look a little bit strange, so bear with me. As you just saw there, after I picked the poppy, I got a special poppy from the advancement. Some of these achievements will be popping up that just give me some extra items of the one that I got for the advancement, or just a special funny item that doesn't usually have purpose as far as I can tell. But I won't bring them up too much because there are a lot of them. But every once in a while they'll give me a couple extra blocks, so if that happens, that's what that's from. But other than that, I just start on the usual. Break grass, don't get any seeds unfortunately, chop down the tree, but getting some of the wood to start, just to make some slabs to stop myself from losing saplings to the void, and pouring lava down one side of the island. That last one isn't super normal, but we'll get to it. But first, I check the items in the chest to see if they're different, and also to see if any of them give advancements, because I'm curious if they'll give me extras, and some of them do, which is convenient. But back to why I poured lava down the side of my island, it's because I can move the source and then pour water over the flowing lava to get early cobblestone. I end up needing to make a stone pickaxe to actually remove all the cobblestone that I made, but I did it like this because it's just a little bit more convenient to do it this way for me than to make a cobblestone generator this early, because cobblestone generators are vaguely annoying when you lose like a third of the cobblestone to the lava, so I just decided to try it like this instead. But with that, we can get back to normal Skyblock stuff, like removing the top 2 layers of the island because I want more blocks and want to build my own thing instead of just island, and also building an actual cobblestone generator because I know I just talked about how annoying losing cobble to the lava is, but it also means I don't have to dangle my life over the void, which is a little safer and probably a little smarter. With my first cobblestone slabs, I bridge over to 0, with the cobble slabs I have, and begin making a circle, because circles are just a great shape. And building in Skyblock, I feel like I always gravitate to making circles, just because it's fun, I guess. And with my circle built, I move all of my chests and workstations over to it, as it'll of course be my main base for now. I remove the old cobblestone generator too after some mining, and make my preferred design on the circle to replace it. I prefer this design just because it looks a little bit nicer, and also it keeps the lava off of the ground so you're less likely to fall into it, and it's a lot easier to not mess it up and accidentally kill your lava. And with the cobblestone that I get out of this cobblestone generator, I use it to make a circle of full blocks around the circle just to add a little bit of depth and also a bit more of an obvious area, I guess, to where the edge of the circle is, because I do not want to fall off, and falling off of things is something I'm pretty good at. And that's pretty much the early game cycle sorted. Just mine cobblestone all the time, mine trees when they grow, and sometimes add stone to your platform when you feel like it. But I don't want to live on this little tiny circle forever, so I pretty quickly start marking out a major expansion once I've got a bit more cobblestone. I mark out a 101 diameter circle with cobblestone, but don't fill it in yet because I don't want to use just cobble for it, and would need a lot of cobble for that. I also do some more mining with the lava fall cast method because losing cobble in the lava was making me upset again. Yeah, cobblestone is nice and all, but mining out of a cobblestone generator is not exactly the most enthralling thing to do in the whole world. And so, with that cobblestone, I begin bridging out east, because I see a structure out that way that I think will be helpful in the block collecting and also fun aspects of the game. And after just a few hundred blocks worth of placing, we're finally right above the place I wanted to get to. The structure that I saw in the distance, and the one that I wanted to check out, is a trial chamber. Wanted to check this one out, A, because I've never actually interacted with a trial chamber before, so it was just exciting, and secondly, because it has a lot of different blocks in it, which can be used to build my circle, which will be nice. And so, after a quick trip home to get a water bucket so I can actually get down to the trial chamber, I start heading down, placing blocks on the way down so I can make a staircase in the future, and I quickly begin digging a staircase down the wall of the chamber once I get there. But, noticing it turning night, I do take a moment to light up the area I dug down to, as well as where I dropped down. And with that all set up, I can now semi-safely dig into the trial chamber, and have my first actual experience inside of one. Unfortunately, pretty soon after getting in, I realized that I had triggered a breeze spawner, and considering that I just had some leather boots and a stone axe, I sorta figured I wasn't quite prepared to deal with that, so I quickly make my escape from my first attempt at the trial chamber, and end up getting into a fight with a skeleton outside, though that is much easier to deal with because he killed himself most of the way by jumping off the roof. However, with the amount of mobs that I notice spawning around, I do decide to take a moment just to kill a few of them to get my first actual mob drops on this world, since they can be pretty handy overall. Especially bones might actually help me get some sort of reliable food source later on. I, however, get a bit overconfident, and after being repeatedly surprised by the reach of zombies as I fight mobs and get shot by skeletons a few times, I end up dying, because, you know, the zombie can reach me, which I already knew, but it happened anyway. I actually managed to die a second time here, but I accidentally paused the recording during that attempt to get my stuff back, and yeah, I lost that part of the recording, similar to how I lost all of the OBS recordings for this day of recording, except for that first little bit. But I return, collect my things, and deal with a few more monsters as the sun comes up. But with the sun now up, I take the time to dig up to the platform that all those mobs were spawning on, finding a chest with nothing in it on the way, and I get to kill some slimes that had spawned up there. But after a bit of hesitating, I decide to enter the trial chamber again, and this time end up on a platform directly next to a spawner. That spawn's bogged, and so I immediately run away because I am not dealing with that. Instead of doing that, I head back to the other side of the trial chamber where I saw a shipwreck. I wanted to get over to that because it might have some good items in it, but it turns out it was a bit lower than it looked on the trial chamber, so I end up just going into the trial chamber again. I begin sneaking around the trial chamber, nabbing a chest on the staircase before moving back down and finding 2 more chests in the hallway. After grabbing those, I move into the larger room ahead of me, being cautious as I can see multiple trial spawners on the ground ahead, and I take note of a fountain in this room that I might be able to steal from to get water for an infinite water source. I begin walking down the hallways next to the spawners, breaking the pots as I go as they have some nice loot in them, getting some iron ingots and some emeralds, as well as the pots themselves, which surprised me as I thought they would break. Later, I figured out that they only actually break when you use tools on them, but it seems like when you just use your hands, you actually can just pick them up. I head upstairs and nab a barrel, before heading back downstairs and immediately triggering a spawner, causing me to quickly panic and run away from the area. However, after looking back, I realized that it was just spawning slimes. And I think I can handle those, so I move back and begin having some decent success in beating the slimes. But I get a little too cocky and a little too close and end up triggering the other spawner that's in the hallway that begins spawning bogged. And once again, I am not dealing with that. And so I run all the way back to the stairs and break a block at the top that my water was on top of so I can quickly escape from the area. However, not missing a beat to get loot, I realize I can convince my waterfall to go over the edge of the chamber so I can get down to that shipwreck I was going to get earlier. As it turns out, water is more effective than stairs. When I get to the ship, I actually get some pretty good loot, pretty much everything I would want from a shipwreck. I get moss blocks, which I love building with and would be a good substitute for dirt until I can get gravel to make more, some potatoes, which can be infinite food if I plant them, and a treasure map, which I don't even really know if it'll work, but hey, I have it. But after grabbing that, I finally decide to run home, especially since I don't have a pickaxe anymore and the chamber probably still had a bunch of bogged inside of it, which are not something I feel like dealing with. However, after a day of sleep and placing the copper block I got from an achievement in the special achievement poppy chest, because I might as well put them all together, I go back to the trial chamber to fight some bogged, because I really want that fountain water. And yeah, I very, very nearly die doing that, but I'm gonna say it was worth it. And that's because now I have 2 water sources, which means I have infinite water sources. After that, I begin bone mealing a bunch of potatoes on one piece of farmland, because might as well get a bunch extra, and then I get back to building. Removing the old wooden slabs to make a border out of tough brick slabs around the inner circle, as I would like to incorporate them into the base, because tough bricks just look really good. However, if I'm going to be using tough bricks a bunch, that means I'm probably going to need a lot more, which means it's time to go back to the trial chamber again to make a very jank staircase down, so I don't have to keep bringing my water buckets over. But I mean, since I'm here anyway, I might as well go back into the trial chamber and fight some more spawners, because I mean, like, what's the worst that could happen, right? Upon re-entering, I realize that the bogged spawner is apparently finished. I'm not sure how, because there's definitely still a bogged there, but I guess fair enough. And on top of that, the slimes have kind of spread out a bunch, which makes that one kind of annoying to do because I cannot find them. So instead, I go up to the upper level and fight some of the husk spawners I find up there. You know, I always expect these trial chambered spawners to drop more than one item, but they don't. So I don't know why I keep expecting that, but I always do. I find and deal with the missing slime that was running away, grab a shield from a chest, find another husk spawner, get some other fun loot, like a crossbow, gold pickaxe, and some beds, and fight another slime spawner, since it's not super threatening, except for when I stand a little too close to it. But I did get a trial key out of it, and some diamonds from a nearby pot, so that was a good one. Around this point, I'm very quickly running out of inventory space, but still use the trial key that I got on a vault, and get some arrows and a channeling book, which is nice. I get a bit greedy, looking for more loot, even though my inventory is completely packed. I open a second vault, using keys that I got from the achievement that I got for using a key, because that gives you keys, for some reason. And this time, I get a power book and a golden apple. And I then shoot myself trying to shoot a breeze because I completely forgot that they are immune to arrows. So I decide now is probably a good time to leave. But I do remember to grab some more tough bricks on the way out because that was the original reason I came here, if you remember. And I get a little confused when I find a vault right underneath where I came down. And I stabilize the staircase a little on the way out. We're setting down some more storage, as my one double chest is struggling to keep up, and put down a bed and set spawn, but don't skip the night because I didn't feel like it. I return pretty quickly to get more tough bricks because since I had decided to actually raid the trial chamber the first time I came here to get tough bricks, I didn't end up actually getting nearly enough to actually do what I was trying to do with it. And the thing that I actually wanted to do with it, in this case, was changing this inner circle to an inner star. I don't want to be too uncreative by just making a bunch of concentric circles, so I change up the shape of this inner circle before adding points to make a pretty decent 8-pointed star. Using some cobblestone, some more tuff, and some wood, I finish up this star filling in those points and making a pretty decent center point to this platform that is going to be my base for quite a while. Though I do actually end up dying off screen at some point during this to some phantoms as I was going to get more blocks, but it is what it is. I spend a bit more time shaving some more blocks off the trial chamber because I can really never have enough, and then add a couple more layers around the star to make sure it stays prominent before I put it in another circle. Since I had already built the 101 diameter circle, I decided that it was still going to be a circle platform for the most part. The star part is just gonna be a good centerpiece, and also, stars are hard to build, so I don't want to build another star around the entire thing because that's gonna be a pain. So I definitely won't do that. But now I'm thinking about it, and that would be kinda cool. So now I'm kinda considering doing that. But with that set up, now we just have this area between the inner circle and outer circle to finish. And so I start placing slabs down. These are not going to be the final floor, because I don't want them to be. So, after setting down the slabs, I start flooding the area with water. And, after getting all the water down, I cover all the water with lava to get a stone platform that is pretty even. Because I also just did not want to have to deal with putting this much stone in a furnace, and so this seemed like the easiest way of doing this. However, just stone is a little bit boring, and that is where the moss I got from the shipwreck comes in. I can use moss and some bone meal to pretty much turn the entire stone area into moss, which is convenient. I can then trim the extra stuff that it grows, like the grass, the azalea, and the moss carpets into more bone meal, which I can use to moss a little bit more. And do that a few times, though with this first go around I do not get all the way through because it's a pretty big area. And so of course, having run into a wall in the building half of the gameplay loop, that means it's time to run back to the trial chamber again. This time, the main reason is in search of bones, but it's also just fun to mess around in the trial chamber if I'm gonna be honest. I managed to beat both the bogged spawner and breeze spawner in this room, though I will be honest, I used some less than honorable strategies to do so, but I got the loot out of it, and that's what matters, including some bones from the bog, which is definitely good because that's what I'm actually here for. One of the vaults also gives me a new enchanted bow, which is nice, because I kinda lost the last one I had in the phantom incident that I died in off-screen. After activating both of the Hux spawners at the same time on accident, and then also the slime spawner pretty much right after that, I end up getting hit in a weird way around a corner and die. Which is unfortunate, because I have good stuff on me. But I can get back and just get it back, so it's fine. I almost die again trying to get my stuff back, but I didn't, and that means I'm immortal or something, and that means I will never lose in this trial chamber ever again, and I just died again. Well then, despite the fact that I'm not super good at it in any real way, I am having a lot of fun with the new trial chambers. I haven't really had a chance to actually play with them, and I think this is a fun introduction, especially since I have like no actual equipment. I think it's a nice challenge. But it does mean that I die a lot, especially when I don't treat the bog with respect, because they're really good at ending your life if you're not careful. But after managing to collect my stuff again, surprisingly, because that was a lot of bogged right there, I just collect some bone blocks, some moss blocks, and open the revealed vaults near my staircase and head back home, spreading the moss over the rest of the quarter circle and then trim the foliage again. Planting oak saplings over the moss so I can start getting a better amount of wood, and grow an azalea because why not? Though I do accidentally make some rooted dirt and have to remove it from reality. With this whole area now being an area where trees can grow, it becomes much easier to start farming trees. Which is good, because I do want to use wood a lot more, because wood is just a good building block, and having stone everywhere will get boring eventually. Though, it could be even better, and so I pretty quickly get to work filling in the other 3 quarters of the circle. And I say very quickly, but just setting down the slabs and getting it all the way up to having stone in all of this area took an hour and a half. So it was not in fact very quickly, but I tried my best to not take too long, and failed at it. During this time, we run into a strange fellow who somehow ended up on our platform and want to buy everything he has. We buy some cactus, a beetroot seed, 4 jungle saplings, 8 blue ice, and 8 rooted dirt. All of these things are nice. Cactus is a new plant, beetroot seeds is a new food source, jungle saplings is a new wood type, and that's good. 8 blue ice, I can't really get it anywhere else as far as I'm aware, so might as well get it. And 8 rooted dirt is good because it lets me have more dirt. And more dirt is always good in Skyblock. And even though it's rooted dirt, just using a hoe on it changes it back to normal dirt and even gives you some of the hanging vines. Which means, overall, good investment. And so, after that, I run over and plant my jungle saplings before, sending the wandering trader back home, and, hoping that he brings back more valuable goodies when he returns. Yes. After that friendly encounter, I spend a while to just farm some of those jungle logs that I can get now, because having a new wood source is really nice, and also the big jungle trees give you so much wood for one tree. And it just feels great to not just have to farm only oak now. And with all that jungle wood on hand, I decided it's finally time for me to set up the classic Skyblock mob farm. I would go into detail on this, however, you're watching a Skyblock Minecraft video by a small creator, so you've almost certainly seen this before. If you haven't, that's amazing. But I'm not going to explain it, but I will put a link to a similar farm in the description. I say similar because I did make a couple tweaks. First, I made it almost entirely out of stair blocks because I think that helps it a bit with rates, but I could definitely just be straight up wrong on that. And I also made it 3 blocks by 3 blocks in the center tube because I wanted it to be a 1 block center because my platform is a 1 block center, and I don't want it to be too horribly offensive to look at because these things are not exactly known to be beautiful, so any help that it can get is welcome. With the bones I gathered from the mob farm, I can now actually finish the outer circle's moss by just using bone meal to spread everywhere, just like I did before. I then remove all the moss because it's genuinely the fastest and easiest way for me to get rid of all the foliage that gets on top of it. And yeah, I think that's pretty much the inner ring done. With all of the moss down, Past Me decided it was a good idea to start planting saplings all around it. Which, yeah, great idea. It gets a lot of wood, but they mostly did it for decoration, but don't worry, we're gonna have to remove, all of these later, because, we're actually gonna be building one more thing this episode. And normally I would time-lapse a clip like this, but I just chased her around with a camera for 3 minutes straight, and if I time-lapsed it, it would look like a blender. And that would not look very good and would probably hurt your eyes, so I'm electing not to do that. You're very welcome. With those obsolete trees placed, I enter the mob farm and have a slight incident. It's probably fine. And then place oak planks over the cobblestone slabs on the very outer ring to begin the outer ring wall. Those slightly chaotic shots out of the way, here's just a nice, calm shot of past Lucy bringing the wall up 3 more blocks. Followed immediately by a much more chaotic shot of me once again chasing her with a camera as she places one last layer of blocks over all of the wall. Next step on the wall making process is to add a door, because I still want the bridge over to the trial chamber to be accessible for what I would hope to be obvious reasons. The trial chamber just gives way too much useful stuff, so having it inaccessible isn't really an option, so I really quickly add a little door to get over to it. This, however, doesn't look super great, so let's add some actual decoration. First, I add a couple of double staircases up to the top of the wall. I guess curved staircases, but you know what I meant. And then just extra details to make the doorway over to the bridge look a little bit nicer. And you know how I was talking a little bit earlier about how all of these trees are super in the way of what we're getting ready to build? That's because we're probably going to have detail on all of the walls, and so all of these trees are a little bit too close to actually do that. So it's time to get rid of all of them, which normally would take a really long time, but with the tree feller mod it isn't too bad. And even with that it would have taken a while, but because Lucy is extraordinarily impatient and has the power of sin, apparently, they place more logs to connect the trees together, and apparently that makes the tree feller chop every single tree that is connected to a log block, which is weirdly effective. This is also very off topic and doesn't really matter because they get torn out pretty much immediately, but doesn't it look super cozy inside of the trees? With all the extra log blocks, it kind of just looks like a weird house. You know, because it's got walls with the logs, the gaps could be windows, and then the leaves is your roof. I don't know, something about it looks kind of cozy to me. But a normally somewhat arduous job of chopping down what is effectively an entire forest through the power of the tree feller mod and this sin chopping strategy is cut down to just a little 14-minute endeavor. But after getting that out of the way, it's time to actually make use of that space, first by adding more doors. Yeah, I added that first door and staircase just to get over to the bridge that I already had, but if I want to build more bridges out, it'll be good to have more exits from this main area. So I decide to put one of those staircase areas on each of the cardinal directions. If it wasn't obvious from the way that I was building, this is the point where I started using Lightmatica to make these. This is because I wanted all 4 of them to be exactly the same, but I didn't want to spend too much time looking back and forth between them, so using Lightmatica I can make a blueprint of it and just build them up layer by layer. And, conveniently enough, if you're using replay mod, or in this case flashback, the ghosts don't show up for them, and so it just looks like I'm building semi-normally, which I think works out. I'm pretty proud of how these turned out, being like little fortified castle-y looking doorways, I guess. Pretty much was what I was going for, just a sort of fortified wall, because I kinda want this skyblock to eventually feel more like its own world, instead of just the absence of a world, which I think is kinda the goal for me today. Or not today, but in the series and as a whole, is to eventually make bigger areas, maybe even landscapes at some point, just to make the whole world feel more alive instead of just this massive, empty void. So, to finish out this video, I just want to make this starting platform look as nice as I can make it with the current materials that I have, which pretty much just amounts to making this inner wall look pretty decent. And I'm kinda just sticking with this fortified castle design, adding the same sort of parapet design to the top of the wall, and then later on going through and making arches out of stone bricks on the bottom to just bring it all together. And so, with this being done, that's pretty much the end of the episode. I don't want to get too carried away with episode 1. I know a lot of people who make Minecraft videos like to do a lot on the first episode, like making an entire set of netherite armor and all that, all on episode 1, but that's not really my way of playing the game. So I'm probably going to not do that. See, I didn't even want to go to the nether on the first episode, just stick to the overworld, be normal, and make some stuff. In fact, you probably noticed that I'm not even wearing armor. I've gotten some, but haven't put it on. A, because I don't feel like it, and B, because I don't really like how Minecraft armor looks that much, and so I pretty rarely actually put it on, which definitely doesn't help when I get killed all the time, but it is what it is. And so, with all that yapping out of the way, that'll be the end of today's episode, and I hope to see you next time. Moving forward won't be super easy, because I still have a lot to do, but with this starter area, it shouldn't be too bad.